Hello everybody, I'm Rebecca McLaughlin-Eastham and this is Inspire Middle East. Welcome to the show. This week we're focusing on knowledge and the sharing of information, in particular how they can have a positive effect on societies around the world. We'll speak to the famous human rights campaigner Kerry Kennedy, who is carrying on the work of her late father, Bobby.
Daddy ran for president in 1968. He said peace, justice, and compassion towards those who suffer.
A little bit later on, we'll meet some Iraqis who are passionate about sharing knowledge, and we'll find out how they went about translating Wikipedia into Arabic. But first, compassion, kindness, human rights, and creating lasting social change have been guiding principles for Kerry Kennedy for all of her life. Not dissimilar a path, you could argue, to that of her late father, Robert F. Kennedy. Since 1981, activist Kerry Kennedy has been perpetuating her father's dream of a just and peaceful world.
Like it or not, we live in interesting times. They are times of danger and uncertainty, and everyone here will ultimately be judged, will ultimately judge himself on the effort he has contributed.
Reminiscent of the killing of his brother, President John F. Kennedy, in 1963, Bobby Kennedy was assassinated in 1968 whilst running for president. But his principles live on in Kerry's work, which has seen her lead delegations against human rights in places from the US and China to Morocco and Gaza, where she's targeted issues from abuses of women's rights to child labour. To date, Kerry's foundation has collaborated to educate millions of students in human rights, and the 60-year-old is passionate about empowering the next generation of activists and leaders. She also works tirelessly to amplify the voices of journalists who are exposing truths and making a difference in the world today. And that was where Inspire started its conversation with Kennedy when she travelled to Abu Dhabi. Kerry, it's lovely to meet you. Thank you for talking to Euronews.
So happy to be here, thank you.
Let me start by asking you about the media, because you say never before in history have they been under such fire for speaking truth to power. And obviously a very outspoken critic of the media is President Trump. What does this say about democracy? Where do we go from here?
Well, you know, President Trump has really said the media is the enemy, has targeted journalists, has thrown journalists out of the White House because he didn't like the questions they were asking. As a journalist, you know how important journalism is to rooting out corruption and especially to protecting our democracies.
What do you think your late father would make of the state of US politics today, and who would he like to see in the White House?
You know, when Daddy ran for president in 1968, he said peace, justice, and compassion towards those who suffer. I think that's what our country is yearning for today. I think people want leadership that they believe in, and they want a future where their kids will do better than they do.
Do you foresee a time when we will again see a Kennedy in the Oval Office?
Oh, I hope so. I have a nephew called Joe Kennedy. He's running for Senate right now, and you know, I just think he's got all the markings of a great president.
You're from one of the most famous clans in the world, which obviously has its advantages and opens many doors, but are there any drawbacks?
I feel like I've been so blessed coming from my family, having a father who I was so close to. I was 8 years old when he died, but who I so admire. My Uncle Jack as well, and so many other people in my family, Eunice Shriver, who started Special Olympics, and my mother she had 10 children, was pregnant with her 11th when she saw her husband killed. And so she raised us all as a single mother. And I just feel so blessed to be in our family. I think it's coming from our family, there's a core value system that we hold together. We have this incredible sense of love and commitment towards one another.
Looking back on your career to date, what's your proudest achievement?
We sued the government of Colombia and won that lawsuit. And it's the first time in the history of Latin America where a government was held accountable for the assassination of journalist Nelson Carvajal. We also got legislation passed in New York State for the protection of agriculture workers. Before, they had no right to a day off per week, no right to overtime pay.
When you look at women's rights and human rights in general, and you look at this region, what are your key takeaways?
Well, I think this is a region in transition, and I think that's good. Martin Luther King said, history bends towards justice, and that is certainly the trend in the Middle East. I think governments, the first thing that they really need to do is look at the laws. They need to ratify the ILO conventions that protect women at work. They need to implement pay equity and equal pay for equal work laws. They have to make sure that women have basic rights that allow them to flourish in an economy.
Talk to me about your innate sense of fairness and justice. You had something of an epiphany when you were just 5 years old and you learnt to tie your shoelaces, right?
My father was Attorney General at the height of the Civil Rights Movement. So when I learned to tie my shoes, I made sure if I put my left one on first, I tied my right one first because I wanted there to be fairness and no discrimination.
And on that note, we shall leave it. Thank you for speaking to me today.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. The sharing of knowledge, in particular of the written word in post-conflict times, has been a passion, a key cultural ambition of some Iraqis. Rosie Lees-Thompson reads between the lines and explores the literary scene in the country. And she also finds out why English to Arabic texts are translating especially well.
When the so-called Islamic State invaded Mosul in 2014, the loss of life was not the only thing to fear, but also the loss of knowledge. Pages upon pages from Wikipedia were secretly downloaded and covertly shared. These files were in English, not Arabic, making them only accessible to few. Despite Arabic being the fourth most spoken language among internet users, less than 1% of online content is published in it. So when the Iraqi city became liberated in 2017, a team of student translators from the University of Mosul set on a mission to change things, translating Wikipedia pages and academic texts from English to Arabic.
When some people try to seek for something in Arabic, especially if that knowledge stemmed from the English culture, it's really hard. And like in this project, we have translated things that are really important and essential in our life, like about economics, anthropology, and linguistics. So these stuff are studied now, for example, in our university.
But it's more than transferring information. The project, funded by the non-profit organization Ideas Beyond Borders, hopes by empowering people with knowledge, facts can combat lies and critical thinking can be a weapon against radicalization.
Knowledge, for me, is the most influential weapon against regressiveness, against narrow-mindedness, and against radical thinking. So, getting this knowledge transferred into Arabic can hopefully make a difference in people's minds.
So far, the organization has translated 11,000 scientific articles and added more than 10.1 million words to the Arabic Wikipedia. But students feel there is not only the need for English content into Arabic. Since the early 1980s, Al-Saki Books in London has been translating Arabic literature into English. After fleeing Beirut during the Civil War, Salwa Gaspard established Notting Hill's first Arabic bookshop in 1978. And over the years, she's seen demand rise.
The Arab world is almost unknown. All they knew about it, was the discoveries of Egypt, the Orientalism, etc. And after 9/11, the terrorists. So they didn't really have a feeling of the real people, of the real problem of the people in the Arab world. And this is what the translated literature conveys to them. And it has been going from strength to strength because now many big publishers, it used to be only the niche publishers who would translate Arabic fiction. Now everyone is doing it. Bloomsbury, Macmillan.
More Arab writers are gaining international attention. Moroccan author Leila Soleimani's best-selling novel Lullaby is now being adapted into a movie. While last year, Oman's Joka Al-Harthi won the prestigious Man Booker Prize for her book, Celestial Bodies.
When this book won, we couldn't believe it, you know.
Oh,
because,
really?
yeah, it's the first time an Arabic book wins a major prize in the UK. And I think it's paving the way, you know, to more Arabic translation and more understanding of the real Arabic culture.
So while the road to mutual understanding is still at the start of its journey, it seems from London to Mosul, translation is the key to unlocking the world's doors and connecting knowledge and cultures.
Well, that is a wrap of our show for this week. We very much hope that you enjoyed it, and do be sure to catch all of our episodes online at euronews.com. Before I leave you, here are some socially minded Instagram posts that caught our attention this week. But for now, take care, stay safe, and stay home. I'll see you next time. Sudanese journalist Yusra says that journalism shines a light on the unknown. And Wafa from Tunisia studies English in order to be able to access information from different parts of the world.